Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Project Build. In this episode, I've got a new Avant that I just picked up right behind me there, and I've torn into it a little bit already, but I'll tell you what's going on. So this is a 2005 A4 wagon, 6-speed, so it's got the O2X transmission in it, and I don't know if it's Dolphin Gray or Atlas Gray on gray interior, 260,000 kilometers on it, and the motor is apparently no good on it. So I picked it up cheap. There's a few parts on it that I want to scab off of it and replace with OEM, and then see if I can fix what's wrong with the motor. So
the timing belt definitely stretched a bit and caused some contact with the valves in the head. The intake valve here definitely made some contact, so I ground it down with just a Dremel, and same with the exhaust valves there. Happened on all of them. Cleaned up the head or the cylinders, and yeah, we'll just slam a good use head on it, so it should be fine. While I'm in here, I'm going to be doing the motor mounts as well. It's a good time as any to get it done while it's nice and easy accessible. The KO3 that was here had a little bit more shaft play that I wanted, so I've got a good used unit going in. This looks like it's an aftermarket cat, so I'm going to replace that with an OEM, good used OEM one, and a normal system because the new owner wants it nice and quiet. I also hauled out the secondary air ejection pump. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to put a cap on the back of the head there to delete that whole array of nonsense. While I was in here, the thermostat started to leak, so I'm going to replace that and toss in a new J-plug. I annihilated this dipstick tube, removing the intake. Pretty common part to fail, and it gets pretty brittle, so I'm going to replace that as well. The crankcase vent breather is starting to look, well, it's starting to sweat. These things usually collapse and fall into a million pieces into your crank, so I'm going to obviously replace that. There's a couple hoses I'm going to replace as well. Oh, the coolant flange on the head, while I was taking that off, the hose that goes down comes up and feeds to the heater core. That kind of busted all apart too, so I'm going to replace that with a new hose. And while I was in here, I noticed that there's a lot of dirt accumulation around here behind the cabin air filter housing. So I removed that, cleaned it all up. It kind of looked like mud. Now it's all nice and clean. I'll hit it with some soap and detergent to really clean it up. I removed the ECU so that way I could get to the wiper transmission linkage. It was starting to slow down. I've got a good used one that I'm gonna still rebuild anyways. I just cleaned the injectors, and they should be good to go as well. I'm going to replace the upper and lower O-rings. A lot of them, the coil pack harness will start to get rock hard. You can barely even bend any of these. They're just melted into a position, and with that, the jacketing becomes very, very delicate and starts breaking. And this is just early signs of a failure. This gets worse. You'll start having misfires. You'll change coil packs, swap them around, and you'll be chasing your tail for a long time. So I've got a kit from ECS where you just cut this whole thing, add a connector here, and then replace this all. While I'm in here, I'm also going to replace these pretty scuzzy looking injector seat bases. So what might happen here is you get one or two out whole, but then they just kind of crumble as you try to twist them out. They're jammed in there pretty tight. It's plastic, it's brittle, so after 260,000 kilometers, that's what's going to happen. So what I've done already is you just kind of chisel one out. I start at the base and then kind of work my way, take the whole base out kind of thing, the lowest point out, and work my way up, and then start pounding things in, trying to avoid the threads at all costs kind of thing. And then once you get kind of one edge completely broken through to the threads while being very careful, you should be able to collapse it all and punch it through. This is obviously way easier with it outside of the car. If this was still installed, yeah, there'd be a lot of potential for debris going in to the intake manifold and cylinders and all that stuff. So anyways, gonna go ahead, clean up all the areas real good of any kind of residual fuel and oil kind of stuff. So whenever I do install my new, it's going to be easy to see if any of them are leaking after a period of time.
that's the end of this video, guys. Stay tuned for the next video. We'll be looking at some of the rebuilding process of this 1.8 and hopefully get it started.